Maya civilization. The Maya are an indigenous people of Mexico and Central America who have continuously inhabited the lands comprising modern-day Yucatan, Quintana Roo, Campeche, Tabasco, and Chiapas in Mexico and southward through Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador and Honduras. The designation Maya comes from the ancient Yucatan city of Mayapan, the last capital of a Mayan kingdom in the post-classic period. The Maya people refer to themselves by ethnicity and language bonds such as Quiche in the south or Yucatec in the north, though there are many others. The mysterious Maya have intrigued the world since their discovery in the 1840s by John Lloyd Stephens and Frederick Catherwood, but, in reality, much of the culture is not that mysterious when understood. Contrary to popular imagination, the Maya did not vanish, and the descendants of the people who built the great cities of Chichen Itza, Bonampak, Uxmal and Altanha still exist on the same lands their ancestors did and continue to practice, sometimes in a modified form, the same rituals which would be recognized by a native of the land 1,000 years ago. Maya origins. The history of Mesoamerica is usually divided into specific periods which, taken together, reveal the development of culture in the region and, for the purposes of this definition, the emergence and cultivation of the Maya civilization. The Archaic period, 700 to 2000 BC, during this time a hunter-gatherer culture began to cultivate crops such as maize, beans and other vegetables, and the domestication of animals, most notably dogs and turkeys, and plants became widely practiced. The first villages of the region were established during this period, which included sacred spots and temples dedicated to various gods. The villages excavated thus far are dated from 2000 to 1500 BC. The Olmec period, 1500 to 200 BC, this era is also known as the pre-classic or formative period when the Olmecs, the oldest culture in Mesoamerica, thrived. The Olmecs settled along the Gulf of Mexico and began building great cities of stone and brick. The famous Olmec heads strongly suggest highly sophisticated skill in sculpture, and the first indications of shamanic religious practices date from this period. The enormous size and scope of Olmec ruins gave birth to the idea that the land was once populated by giants. Though no one knows where the Olmecs came from, nor what happened to them, they lay the foundation for all the future civilizations in Mesoamerica. The Teotihuacan period, 200 to 900 AD. During this era the great city of Teotihuacan grew from a small village to a metropolis of enormous size and influence. Early on, Teotihuacan was a rival of another city called Quiquilco, but, when that community was destroyed by a volcano c. 100 AD, Teotihuacan became dominant in the region. Archaeological evidence suggests that Teotihuacan was an important religious center which was devoted to the worship of a great mother goddess and her consort the plumed serpent. The plumed serpent god Kukulkan, also known as Ýucamats, was the most popular deity among the Maya. Like many of the cities which now lie in ruin throughout the southern Americas, Teotihuacan was abandoned sometime around 900 AD. The El Tajin period, 250 to 900 AD. This period is also known as the Classic period in Mesoamerican and Mayan history. The name El Tajin refers to the great city complex on the Gulf of Mexico which has been recognized as one of the most important sites in Mesoamerica. During this time the great urban centers rose across the land and the Maya numbered in the millions. The very important ball game which came to be known as Piociatok was developed, and more ball courts have been found in and around the city of El Tajin than anywhere else in the region. Who, precisely, the people were who inhabited El Tajin remains unknown, as there were over 50 different ethnic groups represented in the city, and dominance has been ascribed to both the Maya and the Totonac. The Classic Maya period, 250 to 950 AD. This is the era which saw the consolidation of power in the great cities of the Yucatec Maya such as Chichen Itza and Uxmal. Direct cultural influences may be seen, in some sites, from the Olmecs and the Zapotecs and the cultural values of Teotihuacan and El Tajin, but, in others, a wholly new culture seems to have emerged, such as at Chichen Itza where, though there is ample evidence of cultural borrowing, there is a significantly different style to the art and architecture. This period was the height of the Maya civilization, in which they perfected mathematics, astronomy, architecture, and the visual arts, and also refined and perfected the calendar. The oldest date recorded in this era is on stele 29 in the city of Tikal, 292 AD, and the latest is from an inscription on the stele at the site of Tanina, 909 AD. The city-states of the Mayan civilization stretched from Piste in the north all the way down to modern-day Honduras. The post-classic period, 950-1524 AD. At this time the great cities of the Maya were abandoned. Thus far, no explanation for the mass exodus from the cities to outlying rural areas has been determined, but climate change and overpopulation have been strongly suggested among other possibilities. The Toltecs, a new tribe in the region, took over the vacant urban centers and repopulated them. At this time, Tula and Chichen Itza became dominant cities in the region. Maya culture. The height of the Maya civilization in the classic period produced the incredible cultural advances for which they are well known. The Maya believed deeply in the cyclical nature of life, nothing was ever born and nothing ever died, and this belief inspired their view of the gods and the cosmos. Their cosmological views, in turn, encouraged their imaginative efforts in architecture, mathematics, and astronomy. Beneath the earth was the dark realm of Xibalba, pronounced ᴍᴜᴜ, and translated as place of fear, from whence grew the great tree of life which came up through the earth and towered into the heavens, through 13 levels, to reach the paradise of Tamuanchen, place of the misty sky, where beautiful flowers bloomed. In Mayan belief, however, one did not die and go to a heaven or a hell, but, rather, embarked on a journey toward Tamuanchen. This journey began in the dark and treacherous underworld of Xibalba, where the Xibalbans who lived there were more apt to trick and destroy a soul than help one. If one could navigate through Xibalba, however, one could then find the way to ascend through the 9 levels of the underworld, and the 13 levels of the higher world, to paradise. The only ways in which a soul could bypass Xibalba and travel instantly to Tamuanchen were through death in childbirth, as a sacrificial victim, in warfare, on the ball court, or by suicide. The Maya had a special goddess of suicide named Ixtab, who was depicted as the rotting corpse of a woman hanging by a noose in the heavens. Once one reached Tamuanchen there was eternal happiness, but, it must be noted, this paradise was not thought to actually exist in the sky but on the earth. After ascending through the 13 levels, one did not live in the air but, rather, on a mystical mountain back on the planet. It was because of this cyclical view that the Maya did not believe there was anything wrong with human sacrifice. Those people who were offered to the gods did not die, but simply moved on. This cosmological belief influenced every aspect of the Mayan civilization, and rituals were performed regularly in caves, evoking the darkness of Xibalba, and on hills or high temples which symbolized the heights of Tamuanchen. The Great Pyramids which characterize so many Mayan sites are replicas of the great mountain of the gods known as the ᴍᴜᴜ. The cyclical nature of human existence is mirrored in the famous Maya calendar. The depictions of the many gods and goddesses all go toward their function in helping one through the cycles of life or hindering. The great religious book of the Quiche Maya, the Popol Vuh, tells precisely this story of the cyclical nature of life through the tale of the hero twins ᴍᴜᴜ and Xbalanque and their victory over the forces of chaos and darkness symbolized by the lords of Xibalba. The game the twins are famous for playing, ᴑᴜᴜⴜ, serves the same purpose. ᴑᴜᴜⴜ was the most popular game among the Maya and was far more than just a game, as it symbolized the human struggle and reflected the way the Maya viewed existence. 2 opposing teams of 7 men each would face each other on a ball court and try to score a small rubber ball through a vertical hoop affixed to a wall, sometimes as high as 20 feet in the air, sometimes higher, while defending their own goal. What makes the game even more impressive is that a player could not use the hands or the feet, only the hips, shoulders, head and knees. The Spanish bishop Diego de Landa wrote that watching the Maya play ᴑᴜⴜ was like watching lightning strikes. They moved so quickly. It has long been believed that the losing team, or the captain of the losing team, would be killed at the end of the match, but recent advances in deciphering the Mayan glyphs, together with archaeological evidence, suggests it may have been the winning team or the winning captain who was given the honor of a quick death and instant passage to paradise. The game is thought to have been symbolic, not only of the victory of the hero twins over darkness, but of the cyclical nature of life. The Mayanists Skeel and Matthews claim, many modern myths have grown up about the ballgame. The most popular says that the Maya sacrificed the winners so as to give a perfect gift to the gods. Mayan hieroglyphics. The modern-day difficulty in deciphering the Mayan hieroglyphics stems from the actions of the same man who, inadvertently, preserved so much of what we know of the Maya civilization, Bishop Diego de Landa. Appointed to the Yucatan following the Spanish conquest of the north, Landa arrived in 1549 AD and instantly set himself to the task of rooting out heathenism from among the Mayan converts to Christianity. The concept of a god who dies and comes back to life was very familiar to the Maya from their own deity, the maize god, and they seem to have accepted the story of Jesus Christ and his resurrection easily. Even so, Landa believed that there was a subversive faction growing among the Maya which was seducing them back to idolatry and, having failed to crush this perceived rebellion through the avenues of prayer and admonition, chose another more direct method. Maya calendar. There are two calendars at work simultaneously in the Maya system, the ☆ or civil calendar of 365 days in an 18-month period of 20 days each, and the ☍ or sacred calendar, of 260 days divided into 3 groups of months of 20 days. The ☍ and the ☍ work together, like gears interlocking in a machine, to create what is known as the calendar round but cannot account for dates farther in the future than 52 days. For longer calculations, the Maya devised what is known as the long count calendar, and is this which has attracted so much international attention in recent years regarding the end of the world on December 21, 2012 AD. As the long count calendar begins August 11, 3114 BC, it goes into its next cycle, known as a Bacton, on December 21, 2012 AD. Maya today. In the modern age, the Maya still farm the same lands and travel the same rivers as their ancestors did from the north in the Yucatan down to Honduras. The claim that the Maya somehow vanished, simply because their cities were found abandoned, is not only inaccurate but insulting to the over 6 million Maya who carry on the traditions of their ancestors. Though the region was Christianized in the 16th century conquest and Inquisition, the old ways are still observed in a hybrid between European Catholicism and Mayan mysticism. The daykeeper of a village still interprets the energy of a day, and rituals are still performed in caves and on hills. On the island of Cozumel, shrines to the Virgin Mary and the goddess Ixchel are interchangeable and, often, one and the same.